Hi guys, give me 1 second to finish prepping something and we will get started. Okay. Hi. Sorry. Welcome. So today's going to be real low key. We're not going to try and wrestle with, course material or anything. This is just a chance for you to get to know me and for me to get to know you. So some of you may have filled out the icebreaker survey that's on e-learning. If you have not, please go ahead and do that while we are while we're talking today, and please have it done by the end of the tutorial. Okay, so let me tell you a little bit about me, right? So let me start with me as a researcher, okay? Like I said yesterday in the lecture, I am a political scientist, okay? And what that means is that law professors, right? Law professors go in and they sort of wrestle with the doctrine, and they ask really deep questions about what courts say when they decide cases and how they go about deciding the cases and how courts describe the law. I take a different approach. So I conceive of courts as political institutions and judges as political actors. And so I'm asking the question, why do judges make the decisions that they make? What are the things that drive them to certain outcomes? And sometimes those are the same things as the law professors are talking about. Sometimes doctrine, sometimes law and facts are what drive judicial decision making. But sometimes that's not the case. For example, I read an article a few years ago by a very good friend of mine that argued that judges are more likely to rule in a feminist manner if they have daughters. Kid you not. And this was a well-designed analysis. I'm not going to get in the weeds on the methods with you, but that was the answer to the question, was that if a judge has a daughter, then when a women's issue comes before the judge, and women's issue is a little fuzzy, but I'm sure you can think of some things, they are more likely to rule in the way that a feminist would. So, because of the kinds of things that I do, I spend a lot of time learning statistics and learning how to program statistical software, because the work that I do requires statistical analyses of thousands of cases in order to discern patterns in a way that may not be obvious if you're only reading 10 or 100 cases. So that's me as a researcher. Me as a teacher, my stance as a teacher is that the most important thing for students is to come out of my class with a commitment to building the best possible world. What do I mean by that? I mean that you have to know, you have to understand how the world is structured, right? So we will spend a significant amount of time in this class thinking about and talking about and learning how torts cases are decided in the Caribbean, right? But we will also spend some time, at least a little bit of time, asking the question of, are there alternative approaches? And are these approaches better? Do they serve more important interests in a better way, right? So are we accomplishing what we want to accomplish in the best way possible? And if not, what's a better way? Okay. That's what I really want you guys to come out of this class with, is the ability to question whether the system is what it needs to be. Okay. And finally, me as an examiner. Okay. Grading is just the absolute worst part of being a professor. And it's not that it's bad because of you guys or anything that you've done, right? Or that there's any problem with you. It's bad because I don't feel qualified to do it. Who am I to pass judgment on you, right? And so I approach assessment through the lens of, what are you communicating to me about what you've learned in this class? And if you can communicate to me that you sort of understand the concepts that we are dealing with, then you're going to get marks for it. I'm not especially concerned about how you communicate with me. I'm not especially concerned about the formatting or the or the sources that you draw on. I want you to demonstrate that you know the concepts. And that's what I'm looking for. And that's what gets marks on my exams. Okay? So, do you have any questions for me about what I have said so far? We're going to get to a point later today where you guys are going to get a chance to ask me anything you want, anything at all on any topic, doesn't matter what, but we're not there yet. So any questions about what I have said so far?
No questions, sir.
Okay. Okay. So there was one thing on the icebreaker that might be a little confusing, and that was the question about your walk-up song. So if there's anyone who's confused about it, I have a video to show you to sort of explain what's going on. But if you understand it, if you understand the reference and you're able to answer the question, then we'll skip it. So it's okay to be confused. You can confess your confusion. It's totally fine. Nobody's going to judge you for it. So if you would like the video, just sing out. You can do it in the chat, or you can do it in audio. Everybody's clear? Everybody's comfortable answering that question? Okay, Jade. Okay, Jade and Chelsea would like the video. Not a problem. Okay, 1 second. Let me share the screen. Okay, so here we go.
The game of baseball is full of personality. Whether it's the players, the coaches, or even the fans, it's the unique people and situations that make this game special. Certainly, Florida State baseball is no exception. One of the best ways for players to let their personalities shine through is through walkout music. As each Seminole walks up to the batter's box, a song of the player's choosing plays over the loudspeakers at Dick Howser Stadium. Whether it's an old standard or something more recent, it's a symbol that brings personality to each at-bat.
Just want something that's going to relax you. I know some guys are a little different. Some guys like to get pumped up. I like a song that when I hear, I'm like, you know, it's nice. It got a nice little groove to it. You know, you can listen to it in your head. You kind of get a little rhythm going.
It depends on what mood you're in. I feel like usually I like to get in the box pretty relaxed. I mean, obviously that's why I draw the smiley face in the box before I get up there to hit.
It gives me something to bob to when I'm going up to the plate. It has to be something that would get me moving, and I mean, people can't really tell, but when I walk to the plate, I'm kind of bobbing my head.
And it's not just one style. All sorts of music plays throughout the Florida State lineup. You've got your hard rock, and of course, some mainstream pop music.
Hey, I just met you, and this is crazy, but here's my number, so call me maybe.
But nothing, and I mean nothing, will compare to what fans hear when Jace Boyd walks to the plate.
So I put my hands up to play that song, the butterflies fly away, nodding my head like yeah.
Said it's only Jace. Only Jace. You know, Jace is a guy that can get away with a lot of stuff just because of how he is. You know, he's a nice, calm, relaxed kid, but at times he can be a little weird. So partying in the USA, I guess, matches him pretty good.
Jace is one of the only guys that could probably pull that off, a Miley Cyrus song, and people love him for it, and he does, man. He loves it. It's fun. We all love it, and the fans get a kick out of it.
Whenever it came out, I liked the song. It just kind of made me happy. I guess people have those songs that you listen to over and over again, and I could listen to that song all day.
That's just who Jace Boyd is. Nothing gets him rattled. He could be 5 for 5 or 0 for 5 at the plate on any given day, and his personality would just stay the same. See, it would be one thing if Boyd were hitting 250 on the season, but he's a 400 hitter and leads the league in RBI.
Usually Jace is probably 3 for 4 or 4 for 5 against them that game, so they don't really say anything other than that kid can really hit, and we're usually like, yeah, that's Jace.
It has to some degree, but at the same time, they have to say, wow. I mean, it takes a little bit of, you know what, to play that song for your walkout, hopefully, or they may just think I'm a big dork. Either one is fine with me.
So next time you're in Howser Stadium, make sure you listen to the music. There's meaning behind each song, and just another part of what makes Florida State baseball so special. I'm Scott Kodak reporting for Seminoles.com.
Okay, so for those of you who maybe didn't quite, were not familiar with the concept, right? Hopefully the video makes it clear that what this is it's a way to express yourself, right? It's something that gets you excited, gets you ready to do what you need to do, right? Whatever that is, okay? So that's the only thing that sort of needs explanation on the icebreaker. But now is your chance, and we're going to spend the rest of the time sort of hearing from you guys on what you want to know from me, right? So this is your chance. The last question on the survey asks, what question would you ask if you could ask any question of me, except for how do I get an A in this class? And there's a story behind that, but it's not, that story is not relevant right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start here at, I've got your names here on my screen. I'm going to start at the bottom right of the matrix and just work my way up to the top left. So Derek, you rolled in just in time. So this is your opportunity to ask any question of me that is not, how do I get an A in the class? And I will answer it.
Hi, afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I just wanted to ask you, so how would you describe your own teaching style?
Sure. Well, as I in the lecture yesterday and a little bit earlier today, I do some sort of what the pedagogists call sage on a stage type of thing, where I sort of stand in front of you or sit. I'm sitting right now. Sit in front of you and talk to you, and maybe put some things on the whiteboard and sort of give you the information that way. But I also do a lot of more Socratic work where I sort of ask a question and wait for an answer, right? And one of the things that is that students may not realize, right? Let me pull back the curtain for you guys a little bit. Silence is my friend, right? So if you all sit there just staring at me when I ask a question, great. That means I don't have to prep as much material for the next class. So, so that I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the kind of thing that I do. Is I do sort of put information into, just sort of communicate it to you. But I also, I ask you to engage with the material as well. But one of the things that I am absolutely committed to is that, this classroom will be a place of mutual respect and civility. And so you will, even if I am frustrated, even if I am upset with you guys, you will, I won't hesitate to tell you guys that, but I will do so in a way that respects your, your humanity and, respects your dignity as learners and as people. So you don't ever have to worry about that. Okay. Kezran, you've been in and out. I take it you're having some connection issues, but you're next. So what question do you have for me? Any question at all, as long as it's not how do I get an A?
I'm not sure I have a question at this time, sir.
Okay, well, this is your chance. So if you don't have one, then we'll move on. But okay, Joie. This is one other thing. If I mispronounce your name, and this goes for all of you, if I mispronounce your name, correct me, because you are absolutely entitled to have your name pronounced correctly. Okay, so go ahead.
Yes, so it was Joy.
Joy. Okay.
So the question I have is, what will our assessments be like? Or
your the online assessments that we've proposed have not been approved by BUS. So my understanding is that I'm not actually allowed to discuss assessments, but what I can tell you is that the assessments that were proposed were very similar to what's in the faculty guide. Now, the other thing that I will say is that, like, I don't mind answering questions about what the assessments are like, but that is moving toward asking, how do I get an A in the class? So you didn't do anything wrong. The question's perfectly legitimate. I'm happy to answer, but continuing down that path, for just to let your classmates know, like, continuing down that path is going to hit the point where I go, no, that's just another way of asking, how do I get an A in the class? Ask something else. Okay. So Jemma, you're up.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
I kind of on the wrong side. Wasn't sure if this question was asked, but if you were baseball, what would your walkout song be?
Great question. Guess what I'm prepared to do? I'm prepared to play it for you. So here you go. This is my walkout song.
And it's go, boys, go. They'll time your every breath. And every day you're in this place, you're 2 days nearer death. But you go. Well, I'm a process man am I, and I'm telling you no lie. I work and breathe among the fumes that trail across the sky. There's thunder all around me, and there's poison in the air. There's a lousy smell that smacks of hell and dust all in the air. And it's go.
So that answers your question. That was my walkout song. So Verlaine, you're up.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
So yesterday you mentioned that you studied in America, correct?
Yes, I'm an American for my sins.
But I would assume that you're familiar with Caribbean law as well, since you're teaching us. So my question to you is, what major differences have you observed about American law and Caribbean law so far?
Well, let me start by saying that I am not an expert in Caribbean law. I am going to be, and this, I again, like I said to someone else, I'll pull back the curtain for you guys a little bit. You know, it's actually very rare for your professors to be experts in everything they teach. What we are experts in is learning something very quickly without a lot of structure. So what we're able to do is stay ahead of you and learn the material fast enough that we can teach it. But it's actually very rare for a professor to know everything that they teach, to be a substantive expert on everything that they teach. So it's especially rare in a humanities discipline like law, where our expertise is actually very narrow, but we're expected to teach very broadly. But to answer the actual question that you've given, right? So the major differences that I have observed between Caribbean law and American law is that a lot of things that in the Caribbean and elsewhere in the common law writ, right? The UK, Canada, a lot of places, things that are entrusted to the administrative state are managed through tort liability in the United States. So this class, right, in the United States, this class encompasses a vast swath of the law. In the Caribbean, tort law is actually fairly narrow in terms of what it encompasses and what kinds of cases are brought, because so many of the things that would otherwise be tort type cases in the United States are handled through an administrative process. A lot of consumer protection, a lot of employment law, you know, a lot of finance type things. They're handled in tort cases in the United States, but there's some sort of administrative process in the Caribbean for them. So let's see, that was Verlaine. Teresa, you're next.
Hi, sir. Can you hear me?
I just barely, let me turn up my, go ahead.
Okay, I asked my question in the icebreaker, so I cannot remember exactly what it was. So at this point, I have no question.
Okay, I understand. If you think of it, just give us a wave and we'll take it from there. All right. Shamaria, you're up.
Hi. What exactly is it that I have to say?
I'm sorry?
You said you're up. What is it that I have to say?
This is your opportunity to ask any question of me, and I will answer it, as long as the question is not, how do I get an A in this class? Yeah, so there's a
exactly do you?
So let me pause here. There's a survey on e-learning called the Icebreaker, and please make sure you fill that out.
Yes.
If you haven't. But go ahead with your question. Go ahead.
Yes, I have filled it out. My question was, what exactly do you expect from us as law students in your class?
I have 3 expectations for law students in my class. The first one is that you have to be kind, because y'all, this is a system that is designed to break you. It is designed to grind you up into little pieces. And the only way to push back against that, the only way to maintain your whole self, is to be kind to one another, and to be serious about that. Okay? And I take that seriously as well in terms of my duties to you, right? So I expect you to be kind to one another, and I will be kind to you as well. The second expectation is for you to be prepared. So I expect you to show up to class and you've done the reading and you are ready to discuss the concepts in the reading and any cases that have been flagged for your attention, whether it's in the book or in the worksheets. And you've made notes of any questions that you've had along the way. And that's what I expect of you in terms of being prepared. And the last thing is I expect you to be communicative. Okay, so what I mean by that is the world happens, right? Everything happens so much all the time. And sometimes you have problems. And I want you to be able to communicate those with me so that I can help you if I can help you. So if you're having problems with the course material, you can communicate that with me. If you're having problems at home with a roommate or family or with work or with not having access to a resource, you should feel free to communicate that with me, right? You never have to tell me anything that is, personal, but you are always welcome to tell me everything. Okay, and if I can help you, I always will. All right, so those are my expectations of my students. Be kind, be prepared, be communicative. Okay, so I'm going to butcher this. I'm so sorry. Kasaki? Kasaki?
Good evening.
Hi.
It is Kaseki.
Kaseki.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry. I'm gonna do better. Yours is unusual enough. I may screw it up again, and I apologize in advance if I do. But I'm gonna make an effort. So, Kaseki.
Yes.
Okay.
So my question is, based on your time teaching this course, what is the percentage of passing, like amongst all the students? If it's like 95% of the class would pass this course, is it like 100? How is it?
This is my first time teaching this course.
Oh.
This is my first year at Cave Hill. So I've only taught last semester at Cave Hill. What I can tell you is that it is not impossible to fail my course. It takes a pretty significant effort. Like you have to really either not submit a final exam, that'll fail you, or you have to submit one that basically demonstrates that you weren't engaged with the material at all. I'm looking to get you out the door. Don't promise that everybody gets A's. Not everybody gets A's. But if you are engaged and you are making a serious effort to learn the material, you are very likely going to pass.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. Kami, you're up.
Hi, evening. My question is, why did you choose to teach at Cave Hill?
Oh boy. Well, this is an awkward question. So let me tell you guys a little bit about the academic job market. When I finished my PhD at the University of Alabama, the year that I finished it, I applied to 75 jobs. I got 5 first-round interviews, 1 second-round interview, and no offers. So I did a second year on the job market. My advisor arranged for me to do some teaching at Alabama to sort of keep body and soul together while I did another year on the job market. In my second year on the job market, I applied for 126 jobs. I got 15 first-round interviews, 2 second-round interviews, and 1 offer. So the answer to why did I choose to come to Cave Hill is because it was come to Cave Hill or leave academia. But the better question, I think, that sort of acknowledges that is, why did I apply to Cave Hill? Okay. Because given the dynamics of the job market, if you're not willing to take a job, the right thing to do is not to apply for it. Because if you're not willing to take it, there's a strong possibility that it may be the only offer that you get, and then you have a very difficult choice to make. So why did I apply to Cave Hill? And the answer is, why wouldn't I? You know they call this place the Harvard of the Caribbean, right? There's a reason for that. And you guys are part of it. So be aware of that. Understand the legacy that you're dealing with and what, the expectations that there are for you. We expect a lot of you as our students because we know you're capable of it. So that's why. Okay. Brittany.
Hi, sir. I was going to ask you what made you interested in law, and was there any other profession that you was interested in before law?
Sure. So the story of how I wound up in law, a little bit convoluted, but here it is. When I graduated from college multiple years ago, I thought that I was going to go into the Foreign Service. I was going to become a diplomat. And the American Foreign Service is a professionalized civil service with an exam-based hiring process. So I sat the exam, and after I sat the exam, I scored well enough to go to the second phase of the hiring process, but I didn't make it onto the hire list. So had to find something else to do. And I did a couple of years of political campaign work and thought, wow, this is really great. I like the work here, And noticed that the top staffers, right, the people who were running the show, all had law degrees. And so I said, okay, well, I'll go to law school and then I'll get back on the campaign trail. And then went off to law school and never looked back. Have not done a single day as a campaign worker since then. So that's the story, is that I thought I was going into, you know, sort of a politics and policy world, and got into law as a way to, as a path to that, and then never looked back. So, okay. So Lasanta, correct me if I mispronounced that. Lasanta?
Yeah, Lasanta. Hi. Sir, my original question on the survey was your teaching style, but someone asked that. So I guess I want to ask, what is your favorite thing about law?
I guess my favorite thing about law is the myth of it, right? Like I said a little while ago, my research is all about the things that make judges decide cases that aren't necessarily law. But there's this story that we tell ourselves in law that none of that exists, that all of the social science that's been done on this is just wrong. And I find that myth fascinating because it's self-perpetuating and self-fulfilling. Because so many times we see litigants and judges taking action as if none of this social science is true. And yet it remains true. And that's a puzzle for me that I'm fascinated with. So for those of you, if any of you are Bajans and you need service hours, my understanding is that coming up soon, there's going to be a way for you to get service hours by doing research work for the faculty. If this is a puzzle that speaks to you, if it's something that you're going, wow, this is really weird, then you should come and talk to me about spending some service hours working on my projects. But if it doesn't appeal to you, then you shouldn't do that. So that's my favorite thing about law. Okay, so Salma, go ahead. You're up.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi.
My question for you is, did you ever, like while in your studies, did you ever reconsider doing law, or do you think this is the perfect career path for you?
Oh, yeah, I absolutely did. My first semester of law school, my GPA was a 2.6. And I had, let's see, I had 3 of my 5 classes where my grades were C+ or below. Okay. And I went and I met with my constitutional law professor, because constitutional law was a spring class. The day that grades came out, like they came out, and I was sitting in his class, and he walks in the door and he looks at me, and I guess I just looked shell-shocked. He's like, "What's wrong?" And I go, "Grades just came out." He goes, "Come and see me after class." And so I sat down in his office, and he looked at my grades, and he said, "Well, you know, it may be possible that this isn't the right program for you. Maybe you would be happier in, you know, a public policy program or a you know, something along those lines." And you know, basically he told me that I needed to quit. And I spent about a week going, well, maybe I should. And then I went, you know what? Fuck that dude. And I wound up booking the class, which is booking is something I don't know if you have it here at Cave Hill. At American law schools, the student who writes the best paper on the final exam in a class wins an award, and that's referred to as booking the class. So I wound up booking constitutional law because I was so mad that he had told me to quit. So I absolutely did think maybe I don't belong here. But then I decided that I would be motivated by spite. And I've been motivated by spite the rest of my life. So, Jade, you're up.
If you couldn't do tort law and you couldn't do the political science, what type of law would you focus on different to this one?
Well, I mean, like I said earlier, in practice, I was a labor and employment lawyer. And so, well, maybe I didn't say, maybe I said that in the last tutorial. The problem with the tutorial system is that they run together for me, and so I'm never sure what I've said in any given tutorial. But yeah, I was a labor and employment lawyer, and if I were to leave academia, I would go back to practicing in labor and employment. But you know, in semester one, I taught real property, and that's probably going to be my teaching package for the next couple of years is property and torts, and I may add a third year class starting next year. We're still deciding that. So, okay, Kelsie, you're up.
Hi, sir.
Hi.
So my question is at the switch is hard because like I'm American too, but I started law here. But at some point in the future, I think like I want to go back home and like practice over there. So I want to know like how you think the switch will be.
To be perfectly frank, I think you would find it extremely difficult. To obtain a license to practice in the United States, you will have to obtain a law degree from an American law school. Your LLB from UE will not be recognized, and you don't have to do the first law degree, right, the Juris Doctor or the LLB again, but you will have to do a Master's of Law before you can even be allowed to sit the bar. And that's, I have opinions as to why that is, but regardless of why it is, you'll have to spend some time at an American law school before you're even eligible to sit the bar exam. So
fair enough.
I realize that may not be the most encouraging answer. I have absolutely no doubt that you can do it if you are committed to it, but that's going to be the obstacle.
Okay, thank you.
So, Kelsie, you're up.
Hi, sir. So basically, all my questions were answered, so I don't have any questions, sir.
Well, if you think of another one, give us a shout, and we'll bring you back in. So, Nikita, you're up.
Sir. Hi, sir. My question is, I find it strange that a lot of persons who are lawyers actually stop practicing law and come to teach. And I don't quite understand the reasoning behind that. I know that there are other several factors that will cause you to make a decision, but for someone who would have studied and invested so much time in terms of going to school and then actually building a practice or working in a law firm, how is the transition for you to, well, first I would be interested in what was the reason that you stopped practicing and how was this transition from you from being a practicing lawyer to being a teacher or a researcher?
Well, so by the time I graduated from law school, I knew that practicing was not really for me, right? I knew I wanted to stay in academia. But again, right, what I was saying about the academic job market earlier, a law degree from the University of Alabama, which is where I got my law degree, does not open a lot of academic doors. So you got to go and do something while you're waiting for that golden ticket to arrive. And so that was how I wound up in practice. Was I was basically in a waiting mode. However, one of the things that I think is hard for students to wrap their head around, and I don't know if this is true in the Caribbean, okay? 20 years ago in the United States, where I was trained, going to law school was a ticket to the upper middle class, right? You came out and you immediately got a job that paid enough that you could live quite comfortably. That is no longer the case. Okay. I left the practice having never in any given year made enough to cover both my living expenses and my professional expenses. So the economic hardship was perhaps not as great for me as it might be for other candidates. I also think that there may be some selection bias in your question. And what I mean by that is you look at the faculty of law and what you see is people who practiced for a while and then went into academia. Well, yes, but what you don't see when you look at the faculty of law are the hundreds and thousands of lawyers who never leave practice. And so, so one of the things that is important when we look at data like this, here I am teaching research methods, teaching statistics in torts. One of the things that we have to be careful of when we look at some data is we have to make sure that the data we're looking at is representative of the population that we're interested in. So the population that you're asking about is lawyers, right? Why do lawyers leave practice and go into academia? If the data that you are interested in is academics, well, that's going to skew the answers that you get. Does that make sense? So
Yes, sir.
Great. Okay. So Alana, your turn. We'll go a little bit long since there's only two of you left, but normally we try and wrap things up right at the end of the hour. So Alana, go ahead. You're up.
Hi, so most of the questions I wanted to ask has already been asked, so I have none at the moment.
Okay. Not a problem. All right. Andesha, how do I pronounce it?
Hi, sir. It's Andisha.
Andesha, go ahead.
Honestly, I don't have any question at the moment.
Okay, not a problem. All right, well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks for your time. One administrative thing, it has been brought to my attention that the timetable on Banner has, the time slot for the lecture for this class has changed. Nobody has communicated that to me. I called the dean and nobody had communicated it to him. So we are investigating. We're going to find out what's going on. You'll hear from me via e-learning as soon as I have an answer for you guys. So, okay. Thanks. Derek, go ahead. You've got your hand raised. What's up?
Yeah, just a follow-up. In terms of office hours, when are you available?
Is it not on the syllabus?
I didn't see, but if it's there, I'll check it out.
There's definitely a place for me to put my office hours on the syllabus. I may not have filled them in yet. If I don't actually remember whether I've chosen my office hours yet. I'll look at my calendar, and if it's not on the syllabus, I will make sure that I update it and put it on there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, not a problem. All right. Anything else before we go? Going once?
Yes, sir. I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm just interested in what are some of your current research projects and which one you have found most interesting so far.
Well, I could talk for quite a while about that. So right now I have 3 things under review. One of them is not, it's a joke. And so I'm not going to tell you about it because it's an inside joke for the editor. The second one looks at jury instructions and asks, like, how do jury instructions affect the communication between the parties in the court. And then the third thing that's under review looks at patterns of pleading and argues that we can use institutional design features to gain information about pleading patterns that we can then leverage to ask questions about policy diffusion and federalism and those sorts of things. So those are the things that I have under review. The big thing that I'm working on right now is my book, which basically argues that the political science literature on courts overwhelmingly studies what are called collegial courts, which are courts where multiple judges hear the same case and they have to engage with one another in deciding the case. So national high courts, courts of appeal, those are the kinds of things that we study. And we take the theories that we've developed by looking at collegial courts and we use them to study trial courts. And the book argues that that's a giant pile of nonsense. And we should be building theories about trial courts that reflect the fact that they are much more engaged in policy implementation rather than policy making. So we should be thinking about them as a bureaucracy rather than as a legislature. So that's the answer. I apologize for those of you who were really bored by that. The danger of asking an academic about their research is that they'll tell you. So yeah, those are the things that I'm working on right now. So I've gotten very interested in a theory called jurisprudential regimes. Got a couple of pieces that I'm working on that are related to that. That's a whole different ball of wax. And then I'm also interested in how we measure lawyer quality. So that's because that's something that is sort of hiding in a lot of the things that we do, looking at case outcomes, but we don't really have a good way of measuring it. So sorry, I didn't mean to keep you guys here so long after the end time. Thanks so much for your questions and for your interest and your engagement. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you guys and working with you over the course of the semester. So I'll see you guys at the next lecture, whether it's today or tomorrow. So take care and bye.